Hello everybody, my name is Ann Théato and welcome to the Psychic Matters podcast, episode number 33. Spring has sprung here in the UK. There are tulips and little crocus and narcissi peeping out. The banks of the fields in the countryside are full of beautiful pale yellow primroses. Delicate pink and white apple blossoms are appearing on the trees, and the forsythia in the garden has burst into life with a stunning array of yellow flowers. The sun has shone, the warmth is coming back to the days, and our clocks have sprung forward here, which means that there is a fabulous stretch in the evenings. It does feel as if there is new life and new breezes blowing through everything, and it feels fantastic. New things are happening, and new opportunities are presenting themselves to us all. It's time to come out of hibernation and consider how best we might walk in this world over the coming months. Today's episode, Living with the Moon, reconnects you to nature and its rhythms, encouraging you to see the world in a more holistic way. As the seasons change, so do our moods, our goals, and our behaviours. And although we may be aware of the moon's gravitational pull, we may not be aware that the moon phases itself have got qualities, and that certain phases of the moon are very beneficial for doing certain activities. Settle in for this incredible episode, which draws on thousands of years of observations and ancient philosophy from the Sumerians, the Babylonians, and the ancient Greeks. Keen astronomers and astrologers whose knowledge and beliefs are now beginning to be proven by science. Enjoy. And do let me know. If you could take just 3 minutes to leave an honest review for this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, I'd be so grateful. It would be like a little thank you from you to me. Just scribble down quickly on a little scrap of paper, leave review for Psychic Matters. Meanwhile, settle back and enjoy this incredible episode. My guest today lives her life in harmony with the lunar cycle. She believes that our real power lies in our connection to nature and its rhythms. This lady is founder of the company Living with the Moon, and I'm delighted to say she's joining us today in the studio. Jutta Russell, welcome to Psychic Matters.
Thank you very much for interviewing me.
Hey, it's such a pleasure, Jutta. It's great to see you, and thanks so much for coming in. So tell us a little bit about the history of Living with the Moon and how it came to be.
Well, I grew up with Living with the Moon, and it's based on the biodynamic knowledge which I got from my grandmother. The first time I remember coming across it was when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And I remember my grandma had loads of little herb jars, and she was mixing herb, and she explaining to me how, this herb is good for this and this herb is good for that. And then she was also explaining a little bit about the moon cycle. I was fascinated always by the moon, and she explained to me how the phases work, very basic, And so for me, I always grew up with this. It's not something I had to kind of dig in a lot. It's just been around me, really. And I suppose that's how people, I'm originally from Austria, so my accent maybe is a giveaway. And so that's how people, or not all of people, but many people live there. And so when then I became a makeup artist, I moved away, and I, as a teenager, you're not so interested in this subject matter anymore, because it's a lot to do with, harmonic lifestyle and house, garden, living in harmony with the nature. And I think as a teenager, sometimes you rebel against this a bit. And then so I kind of completely forgot about it. And it was only when I was working on a TV show in my 20s by that time, I came across this beauty expert. It was like I did lots of films, but I also worked on this recurring TV show. And so I bizarrely started talking about lunar beauty, like that the moon phases influences us. And this woman said, "That's fascinating. You really need to write a book." And I thought, well, I've forgotten lots of things. So I started connecting. I asked my mom, "Is there anything left?" And so she decided, "There's this book, read that up again." And then she came back with lots of stuff from my grandmother still. And I thought, well, that's really fascinating. I should really rediscover that. And so I've been tinkering about with this for ages. So I kind of give people snippets of wisdom here and there. And then eventually my husband actually said, "Why don't you just start a website?" And that's what I did, just in the very small. It's still quite small. It's very altruistic, I would say. For me, it's really a homage to my grandmother to keep all this alive. That's what I really want to achieve with it.
What a wonderful thing to have a grandmother who is so knowledgeable about astrology and the stars and the moon. It must have been, I could just see you as a little girl in Austria looking up at the sky and her talking to you.
Yeah, it's quite romantic, but it was kind of, when I look back now, for me, it seemed completely normal. But now, the older I get, I realize what kind of knowledge I've been given. And I really am keen to keep it alive. So basically, what Living with the Moon.com really is about biodynamics. And lots of people know a little bit about biodynamics now, but it basically comes from Rudolf Steiner, and he sort of coined the phrase in the 1920s, so it's almost 100 years old. And it comes from the Greek word bio, which is life, and dynamis, which is energy or life force. So the whole thing is about life force. And what really is interesting about that, what he describes, is that life itself is like a massive macroorganism. Like if you think the stars, the sun, the moon, the planets, and then loads of little microorganisms sitting on it, and all that has to work in harmony. So if you think any living creature is a microorganism in itself, and you can see it maybe as a big clockwork. If you think of a clockwork, there's a big clock face, and then there's loads of little wheels and clocks turning, and everything has to be in harmony for all this to work. So if we kind of destroy part of this, the whole thing will probably fall apart eventually. And we're seeing that already. We're losing a lot of the species, the humus layer is going. So I think this is really a good time to bring this knowledge back. And that's what I'm trying to do with this.
So how can people bring this into their lives, Jutta? How does it affect us, on our everyday?
So the whole philosophy, I think, is really important to kind of come from a very different mindset, because we all see it we see life as a very linear thing, and we don't really take nature that much into consideration in planning activities, I would say. But if you look at it, it's actually everything's cyclic. So you look at the year has it starts always in winter, is a rebirth, then the spring, summer, autumn, winter, and then it kind of gets reborn into it. And then there's obviously the sun cycle, the earth moving around the sun, the moon cycle. Everything is really cyclic. And what I think what happened, and the reason biodynamics was founded straight after the First World War, is not really a coincidence, because what happened was, during this First World War, they had chemical warfare for the very first time. And for this very short period, for 4 years, they started building this massive building up factories, which then built all this kind of chemical warfare up. And when this war ended, all these plants were idle. So somebody came up with this amazing idea, saying, well, how about we dilute this and put it on the fields? So instead of killing people, we just kill, the insects and the pests. So we use it as a pesticide. And that they did, and they told the farmers, use that, a miracle cure, and then you don't have to do any weeding anymore. And that's what they did. But after 3 or 4 years, the soil quality was going downhill so much. So the biodynamics came out of a need from farmers, that they said, well, the soil is so destroyed now that we need to do something. And Rudolf Steiner was known at the time for his kind of holistic speeches. And so they came to him, and he prepared this lecture series, about 10 lectures. I can't remember how many. But and that was all about how to reinvigorate the soil, how to bring the life force back in the soil, because only if there's life force in the soil, the food you grow has got this in it, and that's what we eat. So if you eat dead food, which has been lying around in plastic bags and it's actually dead, then what you're going to eat, you're going to get ill. So if you think it's a completely different way of thinking. So obviously, if you grow your own food, I know it's not very practical, but I mean, I'm just saying theoretically, but also if you eat very clean food, try to eat really as fresh and organic as possible. And it is really not like a fad. It is, we are what you eat, and it is really important. And also the funny thing is, it doesn't actually, I mean, initially costs a little bit more but actually on the long term, it doesn't cost that much more. Even if you want to grow a few things yourself, even on a windowsill, like a few herbs at least, and, you just learn again to reconnect and to do a few things yourself. And that's what I'm trying to do with Living Milk, give little recipes, give little lifestyle advice, and make it easy and practical, because I'm not really into kind of going back to the Stone Ages. I'm completely not about that. I'm in fact very forward thinking. I'm very much into completely new technologies, because I'm really believing that we have a unique chance right now with lots of really innovative things coming on the market. Like, they're talking about a battery which can recharge very quickly, and there's going to be a complete revolution in the car industry that will also affect the aeroplanes. I'm really forward thinking, but I really do think we really have to wake up now, and we need to kind of look at the planet and do our bit. You can, it's like the butterfly effect. You can infect a little bit the macroorganism, but what you can affect 100% is the microorganism, i.e. you. So you can say, I will drive a more efficient car. I will kind of eat more organically sourced food, or I can just try to do a lot myself, try not wrap everything in plastic and stuff. And I think it's a little step in the right direction. But if everybody was thinking that, and everybody had a little bit of a different attitude to it, I think we can go quite far. And I think this is a joint approach. It needs really everybody. And we want our children, our grandchildren, and the generations afterwards to have a good planet still,
Yeah, that's all really, really interesting. And I mean, going back to the food, I've noticed, well, certainly for the last 7 or 8 years, that the so-called fresh sweet peppers and lettuce and tomatoes and cucumber that you buy from the supermarket doesn't have the same taste that it used to have years ago. It's almost tastes of nothing. So I don't know what they're growing it in, but it doesn't taste right. And I know when I've come round to your house a few years ago, there was always this lovely smell of fresh bread in the air, and you always baked your own bread for your family, and I was always really inspired by that.
Yeah, I still bake. I mean, I have got a bread maker as well, because I'm a busy person. But actually, my son has taken that over now. He's doing the bread making now. So it's been in the family. And my kids I've got 2 boys, and they're teenagers, and they're both fantastic cooks. I mean, they can really cook from scratch. We get fantastic. I get organic meat. I get organic vegetable from the farms delivered here. Although I live in London, it's possible, and they make the most amazing food with this. And we're having it's amazing. It's really like going to a really top restaurant when they cook. I'm not kidding, and it tastes fantastic. We all cook together. It is a family activity, but the food tastes good, and it is coming from them as well, because now they've been growing up with really good food. They don't want to go back to rubbish food anymore.
Yeah, it's nice. That's so lovely, to think that they're all cooking, and it does make a big difference. And I know that I live in a very small flat in London, but I have been able to grow my own spinach in pots and things like that very successfully. So although I might not have a big garden to be able to grow lots and lots of vegetables, you can grow a few things on the windowsill, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and just herbs, for example. Herbs is a very good thing. And you can make a herb tea, like mint. Mint is so easy to grow. Just a couple of pots of mint, and then you can just kind of pick it up there and just put it in some hot water, and you have your fresh mint tea. Little things like that you can start with, And then, as I said, these box schemes are, if you actually, my household bill has not changed that dramatically. since I'm eating really healthily. In fact, I think my weight certainly has dropped slightly, because when you eat good food, you don't eat as much because your body is satisfied quite quickly. Because when you're hungry, when you eat something empty, your body is still hungry, i.e. you have to eat more. So you put more weight on. So it has really an all-round benefit for everything, But so this is my one side with obviously nature, with biodynamics. But I also my calendar. Maybe I should talk a little bit about my calendar, because that's sort of the crux of it. Because I mean, the biodynamic movement was more about the gardening side and in the household, but I have sort of built it out a little bit more, and I've been more recently, actually, I've gone more and read a lot of Plato and Aristotle, gone back to the ancient Greeks and Babylonians as well, part of the stuff I've been reading. And because my calendar, which I live by, and that's how I grew up with, that's the biodynamic calendar, is like that. It's not a solar calendar, what we all live by. It's a lunisolar calendar, hence living with the moon. And basically what it comes from is the notion that you have got obviously the year, the 12 months, and that is still there with the solar component, but also there's a moon cycle component. So it basically takes the path, the Earth around the sun and the lunar cycle together into consideration. And it comes all from that the days have not just got dates, which the date is the solar system, is the time measuring element, but they also got qualities. And that's where the moon cycle comes in. And then if you know about that, it's kind of very easy to live in a certain rhythm. So that's maybe the second component of that system, I would say. So when you kind of look at just at the year and the moon cycle, is true, it doesn't really fit very well. But then when you step back and you look at it from a very distant point of view, from an overview, it's actually the ancient Greeks already knew that 19 years equals 235 lunations, like moon cycles, and line up perfectly. So every 19 years we saw resetting. And that's basically the system I'm using, really. And so it does all work together, but just not in a yearly cycle. So I've got on my side, I just do a lot of holistic lifestyle planning as well with the system. And I think that works really well, and people really enjoy that.
And so you talk about individual days having qualities. Can you talk to us about that?
Eye-Opening Moments podcasts are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, in that's where biodynamics comes from. It's like the moon phases itself have got qualities. So even in the old days, certain phases were connected with certain activities. For example, the moon cycle always starts at new moon. When there's no moon, that means that the moon lies between the Earth and the sun, and there's no sunlight can be reflected back, so it needs to be moon. And that is the beginning of the cycle. And that's usually a very quiet time. That's a time to reset, to kind of project. I use it for goal planning. And I have also on my website, if anybody's interested, there's a free download. It's all free. And there's no advertising or anything. So you can just go and have a look at it. And then you can get a free goal planner, which explains a little bit more than what I can say here. So, and then as the moon grows, its first 7 days, the first quarter, that we call that the growing phase between the new moon and the full moon is called the waxing moon, and that can be subdivided into 2 quarters. The first quarter is the first 7 days, also called the waxing crescent moon, and then when it grows further is the waxing gibbous moon is called, and that's basically the more the moon grows, or that's the theory anyway, the more we absorb. And I use that for kind of the waxing phase. I use that for skincare, anything which nourishes. It's a very good time for planting. It's a very good time for making plans, creativities, mood boards, anything to do with creativity, communication. That's what I use that time for. And then the full moon, that's traditionally, it's always been a time for celebrating. And I think this comes possibly from a practical point of view, because if you think about it, thousands of years ago, there was no street light. So you would have, saying, if you want to do a festival, you do it when they have a bit light at night. And lots of festivals, certainly pagan festivals, were in evening festivals. So they needed the moonlight as a practical tool to see. But also it was really easy to say to somebody, that didn't have a precise watch, to say, well, we just meet at full moon. And everybody says, oh, yeah, it's full moon today, so we can meet up. So it's a time measuring tool. Well, the moon cycle was the very first time measuring tool anyway, way before the sun cycle. And then from the full moon is another 14 days or 2 quarters when it goes down into the new moon, and that we call the waning moon. And the waning moon is like, it shrinks, is a good time for detoxifying, losing weight, cleaning, skincare, of like exfoliations. And in the garden, it's good time for digging, preparing the soil, weeding, all that kind of activities. So it's like like compost heap is a good time for starting a compost heap. So it's the eternal cycle of 2 weeks waxing, 2 weeks waning. So this is 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, And what I find really interesting is that only occurred to me not so long ago, actually, the 28-day cycle. We are sort of programmed to that, because if you think about it, the sun cycle is way too long. If you want to do like activities or you plan something, I mean, on a big brushstroke side, it's fine. But on a small scale, it's too far. By if you have this, we have all these predictions in January, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But by March, most people can't even remember what they have started in January. Whereas the moon cycle, the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, is very easy to achieve that, So it's a ever recurring cycle. And the funny thing is, we're so programmed to it, because if you look at the female fertility cycle, I mean, it's not 28 days on the dot for most people, but it is around that time. Some people 27 days, some people 29 days, but it is, we are programmed in that cycle. And it's not even our fertility, it's like a skin. Our skin, our sheds in about 28-day cycle, if you think about it. So that's why it totally makes sense. It's not just like some random fact. It totally makes sense that you would kind of exfoliate every 28 days. And that would be the sort of, I do this in the waning cycle. And then, that's once a month and anyway. And then do more kind of nourishing skincare during the waxing cycle. And that's what the beauty of the system is. You don't just constantly have to say, what do you have to do today? What do I have to do today? You just look at the calendar, and it doesn't mean it's set in stone, but it gives you some ideas. And so for me, I'm a busy person. So for me, I just look at the calendar. What should I do today? And then obviously not everything is possible, but it's just say, today would be a great day for cutting hair, or would be a great day for manicure, or would be a good day for like skincare, which is nourishing, or it's good for like a pedicure or something. I just sort of structured it in a way that it kind of, in a very holistic way, kind of all comes together. And it's a very easy way to measure your time. It's quality-based because, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, why that is. So it's a very easy way to manage your life in a holistic way.
What I find really fascinating is, I used to have an allotment years ago when I had energy, and there were old men on that allotment who used to laugh at me if I planted my seeds. You read a seed packet and it says plant in March or plant in April. So I just go up there and plant. And they'd laugh at me and saying, you should wait for the moon. Don't plant it yet. Talk to us a little bit about that, because don't plants thrive if you plant them at the right time?
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely, because I think it comes from the water tables. If you think about it's energy and water. Really, it comes from a physical side. because this knowledge, what this man referring to, is really the old structure of agricultural systems of all around the world, and it's based on observation mainly. But it's also like there are, for example, with wood. Wood is a very good example. In Austria, we have bridges. They're standing in water for hundreds of years, and the wood was cut on a certain time when the wood is already full of water. Because if you think about it, it's the tide goes, you can see it in the sea really well. But we have also earth tides. The earth moves up every day, like about 30 centimeters, like a foot up and down every day. And we're not aware of that. And so does the water table. And so if you kind of have wood when it's soaked, it goes in and out, in and out. Everything is a cycle. Anything is like breathing in, breathing out, waxing, waning, this is our life. And once you kind of get your head around that, so biodynamics really makes sense. It's not something wishy-washy, which has no connection to us. It's us. That's how we live. That's our life. It's everything, really, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. And so if you kind of look at the wood, the bridges, they've been so soaked into water that they don't rot. And they've just been sitting in water for hundreds of years, and they don't rot. Or firewood, so on certain days, fire, if you cut wood, it doesn't burn. It does char, but it doesn't really burn. And everybody who's got a stove will probably know that. You get a batch and it just doesn't work very well. And that's wood being cut at the wrong time. There's Christmas trees, for example, was cut on certain days. And if you do that, they last for so much longer. If you paint windows on a certain time, usually the raining time, you can prolong the cycle for a very long time. Obviously, the technique is also important. If you do a really bad job painting a window, probably is not working. But it's a combination of right timing and the right skills. And then you get much better results. But there are certain days when you plant things, they just, the plants grow up sturdier. They just kind of don't lose so much. Sometimes you lose a lot of crop. Sometimes you lose much less of crop. It does obviously connect with the rainfall and all that as well. Of course, it's not in isolation. The moon cycle is not everything, but it is a part of it.
And you spoke also about a good time to weed, when you pull weeds from the garden as well.
Yes, when I said about the lunar solar calendar, it does come. The initial concept of the lunar solar calendar comes from the Sumerians and then the Babylonians. We're talking here about 800 BC, possibly earlier, but really the high time was the Babylonian time around 500 BC. And the Babylonians were keen astronomers and astrologers. And they just kind of looked up and they just were really connecting some directions, how the patterns of the stars, the moon forms, and did practical applications, and it comes all from there. And then the Greeks took it on. There are poems like Work and Days. It's one of the very first ancient Greek poems, which talks about that, when you should kind of plant and when you should die. In the Bible, Ecclesiastes, there's a good time to plant, there's a good time to die. There's lots of, if you go through forensically throughout history, the verses, it's been with us all the time. And that's what I said at the very beginning. We only use the time measuring tool of the calendar, but we've lost the quality time. Today is a good day to do X, Y, Z. It's not the same every day. It's not. If you think about yourself, do you feel the same every day, 100%? No, you don't. You have got days where you're good. You've got days where you're focused. You've days where you're not so focused. But you will find, if you look deeply into it, there's a pattern to it. We are all part of patterns. And obviously, science is very interesting. And it's funny because science said like a few years ago, oh, this is all rubbish, with the soil and that's not going to work and da. But now, very recently, scientists have discovered microbes. They have the microbiome in your body, in your gut, and the same in the soil. And they know there is the cycling thing biodynamics been talking about for years. And obviously it's going back to the ancient Greeks. So, it's been around for so long. I can't see how this can be so rubbish if it stays around for thousands of years. But so there's now a scientific explanation for not everything, but for some things. And I think that's the problem I have a little bit with everything. I like science. I really am. interested in science, but you cannot often explain everything with science because, or at this point, I mean, look, for example, at the gravitational pull. The Greeks already knew that the moon and the tides were completely connected. They knew, the Babylonians knew, but could they really define it scientifically at the time? No, they couldn't. They just had to believe that's how it works. And it only took until Newton, 48 or something it was, that he really saw the law of gravitation and put it as a firm physical law. Does that mean between 2000 BC to 1600 AD, this didn't happen? Of course it happened. But we just couldn't define it. And are we saying right now we have the answer for everything, for every force, for every little thing? I don't think so. I mean, that would be crazy to suggest that, no? There will be lots of, in 100, 200, 300 years, if we take care of the planet we're still here, there will be people finding out all of a sudden certain things we now say it's just astrology. Yes, of course it works, because there's a certain force which connects it all, possibly, That's right.
Exciting. Yeah, I think so too. And it will be very exciting when it is all proven by science, things that we and people that have gone before us have known for centuries. Your fabulous website people can go to and they can download a calendar, Living with the Moon. And what's so beautiful about that calendar is the simple way that you've laid it out with symbols. Can you explain a little bit about that calendar with the symbols and the colours? So people can know when to plant, know when to do certain tasks around the house.
Yeah, so basically what I've done is, because it's such a vast topic, I would say, what I've been doing living for a long time, and what I found so hard initially is how to take this massive knowledge, because it touches on everything from your beauty to your relationships and the planting, the moon cycle science, how to put this all in a very simple format so that you can just kind of take it and plan it very effectively. And so I came up with this, and that was the second system. So it's based obviously on biodynamics, but it's also based on this holistic thing, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And I'm thinking, and so I just that was very recently, I just thought, how can I make that a little bit more applicable? And I came up with that pyramid, which I haven't talked much about on my website yet, because this is what I'm doing more for the future, actually. Is like I have got these 5 areas of life. I call it the pyramid of life. That's just because I can't find a better title at the moment.
It's a great title. I think it's wonderful.
and so it's the first step, and it's by symbols. I've got 5 different colors of symbols. The first, the turquoise symbols, is all about you, the body. It's about beauty. It's like your being, like your microcosm, as I said earlier. Health would go in that as well. And then, so that's like, would be the symbols about when you have a manicure, body brushing, cutting hair. And talking about that, I have got people who've been following me for quite a long time. I've got a really nice little list together, like a newsletter I send out once a month. And people being calling me if I have forgotten to put the hair cutting symbols in at one point, saying, when should I cut my hair? Because I only cut the hair with the calendar, because since I do that, my hair is so much better. I've had limp and thinning hair for so long, and since I cut it with the right timing, the hair just falls better and it's so much thicker. So if it helps just for some people, then my job is done. I'm really happy, Anyway, so that's the first sort of the turquoise symbols. Then the next symbols I call happy houses, like is the green symbols. This is all to do with the garden, the household, when good day for washing, good day for cleaning, good day for, like it's again the waxing, when things you should say, for example, do a decoration job is a very good way of explaining it. So like the waxing cycle, you would put a mood board together and you just kind of create things. And then the waning time is the time when you're just going to get the color and paint the thing. And I think that's why it's really important, because to get things done, if you think about it, you need to plan it really well, but you also need to execute it. And lots of people get either stuck, they don't plan enough, or they don't execute enough. And with this little system, you get 50-50. And that works really well. And you get a 28 window. And then if you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve, we just got another cycle where you can do it. You know what I mean? So it's a gentle way of bringing your life in balance. That's what it's all about. Okay. So the next level is like the relationships. It's all to do with how we interact. It could be obviously a lover, your children, your wider community, charity work would fill in, even your pets would fall into that. So that's the third level. And then the fourth level is what I call vocation and career. And I don't mean scrambling money for a living. I mean being fulfilled, reaching your potential. And that has helped me enormously in my makeup career, which I think I've achieved something with it, and just be really fulfilled. And it doesn't matter however small and however big you are. You don't have to be the biggest Hollywood star or whatever. If you just kind of set out a goal and you achieve it, that really creates, in my view, true happiness. It's what you set out in your life. And then in the fifth and the final stage is what I call spirituality. That's probably where your readers will fall into a lot. That's why I'm kind of very interested in your podcast. And it's I would call it less religious, but more kind of spiritual. It's like about the energy, which connects us all, and which is, some people are more susceptible, some people are less susceptible, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's like the radio waves are around us all the time. But I haven't got a radio on me right now. Can I listen to the radio? No, I can't, because I haven't got a radio with me. But some people have a radio with inbuilt. Some people haven't, and they need like a transistor there to listen to it. It's just some people are more susceptible. That's what I'm saying, and some people are less. And living with the moon, I think, is for everybody, because some people already say to me, "Oh, I feel this anyway. I know this is intuitive to me." Well, actually, to me, it's not. I'm not kind of that wired in that way. And for me, the calendar is quite important. I need to have that as a guidance. And it's for everybody else who might not have that skill either. So they have got a bit of a crutch to look it up and say, oh, well. And also it's a very good tool of planning your life. And it all fits together, because that's why I have this holistic lifestyle planner, as I call it. So at the new moon, you just kind of set your intentions and then you just follow it through. And as I said, grow, and then what you have created in your head, that's what you're just going to get done, and then you just evaluate. And that little system keeps going and keeps going, and eventually, so occasionally on the yearly basis, I just going to take a bit of the overview and say, what have I really done? I've got some bigger goals which I want to achieve, and check that off. And that's what most people do. They have got that system in place, but they haven't got the little mechanism to get it done. And I think that is really useful. That's where the lunar element comes in. The solar element, most people know. Everybody knows today is Monday, whatever date, but they don't know, is it a water day? Is it a fire day? Is it an earth day? They don't know that.
Gosh, it's so fascinating. And what a lot of work that must be to put that together. So do you put a year in advance together for people so it's available every year, or how often does it become available?
I think that's why I'm a little struggling at the moment. I mean, I get it all done. I always have a newsletter, and it's always in the newsletter. And I have now an updated, I've got a little calendar which I put on my website, which I'm going to update now a bit further ahead, because I think initially I thought, I'll just give the months ahead, but I've been told by loads of people, we want to plan ahead, and I just do that now. But it's very basic in its form, but I'm going to bring out eventually a book, and which kind of explains a bit more and make it a bit more formal, the whole thing, because I think it's really, people really like to use it. So I know lots of people find it as useful as me. And I know if I don't have my calendar 1 month, I will feel really lost. I say, what day is it today? And I always look up. And even in my job, I'm a makeup artist. I do TV shows. I don't really say to many people, but, I look at the moon calendar and I just know if I have a continuity haircut for an actor to do, and I have got a choice on Monday and or a Friday. Friday is a really good haircutting day. Monday is not, because bad hair days do exist. I can tell you that as a makeup artist. Then I just obviously will sneak it in on Friday. I'm not going to say it to anybody, but that's what I'll do. And I do live it. It bleeds into everything in my life, really. And I have got lots of, some people are really loving it, especially in the film industry. Some people loving it, but others not. And I don't want to bother anybody with it, and it's up to them if they want to use it or not. I think, a good way of using analogy always is like rowing a boat. You can row the boat anytime, but you can row it against, big waves coming, and you can row it against the waves. You get there, but you'll be absolutely exhausted and takes you much longer. Or you can turn your boat around and you go with the waves, with the force, and you be there rested, and in no time you be there much quicker with much less trouble. And it's up to you when you want to row and how you want to row. It's just, I prefer to go the easy way.
That's such a good analogy. I love it. I'm going to be thinking about it.
And it works better, I can tell you that. If you work with nature, it works better. So it's like nature gives you so much already, and just kind of working with the natural immune system, for example. There's so many plants you can have. You don't have to constantly go and get some antibiotics. There are so many healing plants which you can use, or teas, and to keep your health. I think the most important thing is to keep it rather than smash it all and then try to glue it together. I mean, obviously, if you're really ill, that's when you want to have an operation. I'm very happy I live in the 21st century there, and I want to have an operation like in ancient Greece. But, there are lots of things we have dismissed, and why not have a holistic approach and do it both? Then there's the best of both worlds. Try not to get ill, keep your health by eating well, by looking after yourself, by being nice. It's also mental health is a lot affected, because obviously, our brain is a computer, and when you constantly think destructive thoughts, and you constantly are in a very awkward way, you're living against your belief system, I think that eventually has got a direct connection to your body as well. I really do believe that.
Yeah. Gosh, you're so full of information and wisdom. It's beautiful talking to you. Your grandmother must be looking down on you, feeling very, very proud.
Yeah, I think she's still around somehow. I feel like her influence is still over me, and I have got this ability now. Sometimes I think things, and I'm a very positive person, I think, and things happen. I can see things and I can make them. I don't know why. I just kind of have a bit of an ability there, I suppose. Yeah, I think it's positive thinking, So for so many years, people rubbished all this, but I think we're coming to a stage now, finally, that, with thanks to your podcast and other really interesting places, that people can educate themselves about this. And I think that's really important, because self-education, I think, is really, really important, And it's not what you just all get in schooling is obviously very important, but there's so much more to life. And if you think about it, we only use a very small proportion of our brain. So what we're doing with the rest, and there's all the subconscious things, this being branched in and all being part of the same cosmos. I think I definitely believe there is something in it. And we'll probably find out scientifically much later why that all happens. I don't think we're there just yet.
And you've lived a really interesting life, Jutta. I know you've mentioned there that you're a makeup artist and worked in TV and film, but you've worked on some astonishing film sets. Tell us about some of those, just for interest for people.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I think living with Moon for me is so important and so thing. But when I then say, I work on Harry Potter and Star Wars and Saving Private Ryan or whatever, or other films, Fifth Element and the other films I worked on, I go, oh my God, it's amazing. But I think it is amazing, and I'm very proud of they've been given the opportunity to work on all these fantastic projects and the people I met and worked with. But I think this holistic lifestyle, I think this is even much more amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it's helped you? You say about alignment and waiting for the right time. Do you think it's helped you land some of these wonderful jobs?
I've always planned.
Apart from your incredible talent, you are BAFTA nominated, let's face it.
Well, yeah, I mean, talent has something to do with it, and obviously hard work has got something to do with it, because it's a very hard job in the sense from the hours and everything. And I'm still at it. I'm still on the middle of a job at the moment. Yeah, I think it's the positive outlook, and it is literally positive lifestyle planning. It is. They say where focus goes, energy flows. And that's true. If you focus on something, it works. And if it's something positive and life affirming, it works as well as if it's destructive. You think, oh God, I must lose weight and I mustn't do this and I mustn't do that. That works too. But if you say, wow, I want to do this film, I want to do whatever it is, in a very positive way. And that's why I think holistic lifestyle planning, honestly, for me, has been really important to me, because everything works together. And it's so important that you actually know what you want, because the most important thing is, that for example, you go on a journey, you go up a mountain, you need to know which mountain you want to go up on. You need to really, when in the valley, when you look up all those 10 mountains, which ones want you to go up to? It's a lot of effort to go up there. You don't want to go up and then find out, oh, actually, I don't want to be here. I want to be on that mountain, So it's really important that you really, before you go on the journey, you really do some soul searching. And I think lots of people don't do that. They don't say, what do I really want, what I'm really aligned with, and not just what my parents told me to do, what my partner tells me to do, what society tells me to do. What do I really want to do? And if it has to be obviously something which is holistic and working with your environment, and then you have to find your own way, your own path. And I think this kind of lunisolar calendar for me is a very good way of achieving this. As I said to you, the planning cycle and the day qualities, I find it like a little crutch, actually.
That's so beautifully put, Jutta. Thank you. And so people who want to come, they want to download your calendar, tell us your website again so that people can know where to go.
Yeah, it's quite simple. I've got just a simple website at the moment, and it's called www.livingwiththemoon.com. And there you can there's a freebie section, and you just kind of, sign up to the newsletter. You get a monthly newsletter. That's all I do at the moment. I've got time for. And then there's a calendar attached to it. Or there is also a web page called The Months Ahead. And then you just see what's on there. I'm updating it today again.
So there you go. Get yourselves on the newsletter subscription for Jutta's wonderful. Is it a monthly newsletter that comes out, Jutta?
It's monthly at the moment. It's always in the beginning of the month at the moment, yeah. So I
in the
keep
beginning of the month.
Solar time scale of the months, whether it's like, but it's obviously the calendar has a solar and a lunar element, and it's structured in that way with the 5 colors, as I said, and then on top it gives you the moon phase. And the thing is, what is really important to say, it takes a little while to get into this as well, because we are kind of creatures of habit. So if you never lived like something like this, what I suggest, don't put too much at first. Just pick up 1 or 2 symbols and just do that. Say, for example, skincare. Do the waxing moon when you kind of put more oils or, kind of anti-aging, plumping up your skin, for example. And the waning moon where you do more exfoliating, body brushing, and things like that. Just start with one tiny little routine. And once you think, oh, that's working for me, then add another one. Maybe you're a keen gardener. Maybe then you want to kind of do more the planting in the waxing cycle. And then in the waning cycle, you do more kind of weeding and digging over the earth and, pruning and little things like that, just build it slowly up. And then eventually the calendar, which looks very complex at first, you look at it and I can really see in an instant, oh, today is this and I can do that. It's very simple afterwards. But initially it can be a bit overwhelming with all the symbols because, don't do everything at the first time. It doesn't work.
That's good advice. So just one thing at a time and build it up slowly. Jutta, it's been so lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your incredible knowledge and the knowledge of your beautiful grandmother and, more than likely, her grandmother before her.
Possibly, yeah, I'm sure it's not. I wish I could say, oh my God, I invented it. How amazing. Or my grandmother invented it. But unfortunately, this is a knowledge which goes back to thousands and thousands of years. And and that's in itself amazing. If you look how many amazing brains have worked on this and have been working with this, from Paracelsus to Hippocrates to, the list goes on and on. How many astronomers, Aristotle, everybody has been somehow affected by this. So it's actually bizarre. It's only literally since the 20th century that we don't know this anymore. People just beforehand have always lived like that.
That is quite a frightening thought, isn't it, actually? So we have a lot to thank you for.
And since when is our nature really suffering?
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
The last 50 years, really. If we think about the damage we have done in the last 50, 60, 70 years, since the Second World War, and how long the world has been around and how long this knowledge has been around, and how many plant species we've lost just in the last 30 years. Incredible. So I think we should really change something here. I think it's time to wake up.
Time to wake up. And as you said at the beginning of our interview, everybody can do their bit.
I think so. It's like there was this commercial a few years ago, when they say, oh, why should I switch the light off? Why should I do this? And then you zoom out and the whole world says the same thing. And then you think, if you can only start with yourself, you can only start with your own little micro. If you just kind of say, no, I buy from a farmer, I know it's sourced well, I know the animals don't suffer. Well, obviously, if you're not vegetarian or vegan, obviously an animal will suffer if you eat meat. But make it as humane as possible, and make it as friendly as possible, and give them a really good life, and support the farmer at the same time, and just be a bit more open-minded when you shop. And also you do yourself good, because if you eat an animal which has been super distressed when at the time it was killed, and you eat all these stress hormones, that's not going to be good for you. The meat has been fed around from miles away. It's a part of the selfish thing also. You want to eat well. You want to look after yourself too,
Jutta Russell, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your fabulous wisdom with the Psychic Matters listeners. We're so grateful to you. Thanks again, and really good luck with putting the next year together for us. And we'll all be following to see what other exciting things you'll be producing from your website for our delight.
Thanks very much for having me. I hope somebody finds it interesting and kind of has given them a bit of inspiration about what biodynamics is and how the world hangs together. That would be really useful, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jutta. Well, that was Jutta Russell from Living with the Moon. What an incredible lady, so talented, and passing on ancient wisdom to help us live our best lives. Don't forget to sign up to her newsletter and get your freebies. A full transcript of this episode is available on my website, along with links and resources mentioned by Jutta, including links to her website, Living with the Moon, her Instagram handle and Facebook page. So do head to www.anntheato.com and you can pick everything up. ANNTHEATO.com. It just remains for me to say a very big thank you to all of you, Psychic Matters listeners. As ever, I really appreciate you, and thank you so very much for listening. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so that you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes. And I have some incredible guests and some fascinating content coming up for you this year. Have a fantastic couple of weeks, everybody, and until next time, my name is Ann Théato, and thank you for listening to Psychic Matters.